All right, so with the Florida Panthers being your new back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, it got me thinking, what does the future hold? So today, I'm going to accurately predict the next 10 Stanley Cup finalists and the next 10 Stanley Cup winners. Some teams will prove to be juggernauts. Some teams won't even sniff a Stanley Cup finals. Make sure to stick along to the end because the end teams are crazy. You guys already know the drill. Quick public service announcement before we get started. I'm trying to be the #1 most subscribed to hockey channel in the state of North Carolina. So make sure to go click that subscribe button down below, and I promise you won't regret it. All right, so we're going to go in chronological order here, starting in the year 2026 or 2025-26. For purposes of this video, I'm just going to list the latter year of that because that is the year that the Stanley Cup final will be taking place in. And next year, I have the Dallas Stars versus the Florida Panthers. And I have the Dallas Stars winning that series against Florida, dethroning the two-time champions, and ending their run as the Eastern Conference's juggernaut. A couple of reasons for that. I think Dallas, even after this offseason, is still probably the deepest team in the West. I don't like a whole lot what Colorado did this offseason, but I think Dallas is due for it. I think a good coaching change might help them. And Florida, in terms of the Cup finals and why I do not have them winning, I think they're going to run out of gas. This team has been playing almost 100 games, if not more, every season the last 3 years. And if they do it a fourth time, eventually the wheels are going to fall off and they're going to get too tired. Moving on to 2027, I've got the Vegas Golden Knights versus your Carolina Hurricanes. And completely unbiased take here, I have the Carolina Hurricanes finally breaking through and winning a Stanley Cup for the first time since 2006. Rod finally gets his cup as coach. And the reason I don't have Vegas winning this one is I feel like Vegas's roster is old, and I feel like Vegas is going to make a miracle run into that as kind of a last hurrah with some of the core players, and then they're going to have to tank themselves into a rebuild, similarly to what Pittsburgh's probably going to have to go through this year. In 2028, I have the Carolina Hurricanes returning to the Stanley Cup Finals to play the Colorado Avalanche. And I think this time, in a close series, the Colorado Avalanche are going to win another Stanley Cup with Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon, making it the second for that core, for a core that really deserves one. But the next year is going to be the Utah Mammoth versus the New Jersey Devils, and I have got the Utah Mammoth winning their first Stanley Cup in franchise history, and only what would that be, like their fourth or fifth, sixth maybe season in existence. So congrats to Utah on winning the 2029 Stanley Cup. Now we're getting into 2030, and that is quite a ways away. Very difficult to predict what's going to happen once we get 4+ years through because most everybody's contracts will be up. The teams will be completely different. That being said, I think 2030 is the year that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, assuming they're both on the Oilers still, break through and win their Stanley Cup. And I have them winning versus the Montreal Canadiens. But the Montreal Canadiens will be back in the Eastern Conference for the Stanley Cup the next year, taking on a team that has a lot of young talent currently and probably going to get more this year in the San Jose Sharks. I am very high on the San Jose Sharks right now in terms of a 10-year rebuilding plan, because I think especially if they do not go out and win a bunch of games this year, if they, I don't want to say tank because you don't want to tank, but if they're not a perennially good team or a perennial winner this year, they could get Gavin McKenna paired alongside Michael Misa, Will Smith, and Macklin Celebrini. Or they could get a better defenseman. I am very high on the Sharks then. That being said, I do have them losing to the Montreal Canadiens, who will have most of their young players around age 29 to 30 in this range, which is perfect for them to win a Stanley Cup, especially after losing the one the year before. And I didn't even mention in 2030, but that would break the Canadian Cup curse for 2 years in a row. And that's not the last time a Canadian team is winning a cup in this video. In 2032, I have the San Jose Sharks returning to the Stanley Cup Finals again to face off against the last hurrah Carolina Hurricanes, who are going to win that series as well, bringing them their third Stanley Cup in franchise history and sending the San Jose Sharks packing home once again after a long season where they played a bunch of games. 2033, I decided to get a little wild with it, and not the Minnesota Wild, but I have 2 Canadian teams in the final for the second time this video. I have the Winnipeg Jets with Connor Hellebuck still versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, I know. It seems very unlikely that Toronto's ever actually going to make a Stanley Cup final, much less a conference final. But I have them in here because this video is fun, right? That being said, it's not fun for Leafs fans after they lose this series to Winnipeg. Connor Hellebuck cements his legacy as one of, if not the greatest goalie of all time by this point, by winning his first Stanley Cup. Probably has at least another Vezina by then. Probably in this series wins the Conn Smythe Trophy as well. In the next year, I have 2 teams that are not playoff teams from this past season. I had the return return of the San Jose Sharks once again versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think the Blue Jackets have a nice young core. Maybe by this time they'll be a bit older, but if the Blue Jackets build their roster up well, I could totally see this being a future cup final. And I have the San Jose Sharks finally breaking through on their third attempt in 4 years to win the franchise's first Stanley Cup on the backs of Celebrini, Will Smith, and Michael Misa, and who knows what other players. And now we've reached the last one. And this one, I just pulled 2 random teams that I thought might be good by this point, put them in the final. I've got the Seattle Kraken versus the New York Islanders. Now, the Seattle Kraken one was basically just me throwing in a Western Conference team to throw in a Western Conference team. And I went for someone who does not have a good 3 to 4 outlook currently, because I believe that means that they will have to rebuild. And by this time, their rebuild should be done. Like, I would hope if you're rebuilding, you can finish that within the next 10 years. Shout out Buffalo Sabres for being stuck in a perpetual rebuild. But yeah, you guys don't make the finals in this. Sorry. I don't have any faith in you. And the New York Islanders, I think this is probably a little later than they want to make a cup final with their core, but their core is still going to be relatively young or in their prime at this point, which makes them a good candidate to win in 2035. So just to recap, 2026, Dallas versus Florida with Dallas winning. 2027, Vegas versus Carolina with Carolina winning. 2028, Colorado versus Carolina with Colorado winning. 2029, Utah versus New Jersey with Jersey winning. 2030, Edmonton versus Montreal with Edmonton winning. 2031, San Jose versus Montreal, this time Montreal wins. 2032, San Jose versus Carolina, Carolina wins. 2033, Winnipeg versus Toronto, Winnipeg wins. 2034, San Jose wins versus the Blue Jackets. 2035, Seattle versus New York Islanders, and the Islanders win. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click the like button down below. Let me know if your favorite team won a Stanley Cup. Let me know if they made a cup final. Let me know if your favorite team is Buffalo and you caught an absolute stray there towards the end, because Buffalo is still stuck in a rebuild. And I'm looking at you too, Detroit. You're also stuck in that rebuild. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay crazy, guys. Peace out.